The snow smelled like pine and wood smoke. Tahlia hugged me tight by the fire pit. "Thank you for paying the rent," she whispered. Her coat was damp, her perfume too sweet, like she was hiding something. I smiled. She didn't see my knuckles go white. "You always land on your feet," I said, and she laughed. Later that night, I opened her laptop. No password, just an email draft. To my husband. "Where in the world are you listening from? Subscribe. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you protected." I've always been the one who cleaned up after her. Tahlia wrecked cars, missed rent, broke hearts, and I paid the bill every time. I used to think that's what sisters did, even when it hurt. We grew up in the same house, but never lived the same life. She chased chaos. I built quiet. I married Dane at 24. Bought a little home with chipped green shutters and an oak tree out front. We weren't fireworks, but we were steady. At least I thought so. Dane worked nights managing a local lodge. Always tired, always quiet. Sometimes I missed him even when he sat beside me. Then Tahlia called, said her lease ended, said she needed somewhere to go just for a few weeks. It was late October. The first snow had already fallen. Her voice shook on the phone. I told her, "Come." She moved into the spare room with 2 suitcases and a half-dead plant. That first night she cried. I made tea. She called me a saint. Dane barely said a word. He carried her bags in, then disappeared upstairs. I told myself he just needed time. By Thanksgiving, Tahlia still hadn't found work. Said she was trying, said interviews were draining. I believed her. When rent came due for her old place, she panicked. Said her landlord would sue her for breaking the lease. So I pulled from our savings. 150 wired straight to his account. Dane didn't say no, didn't say much of anything. Just looked at the bank app, nodded, and went back to stirring his coffee. It was December when I first felt it, something shifting. One night I heard them laughing in the kitchen, low, close. The sound stopped when I walked in. Tahlia smiled too fast. Dane reached for the sink, dropped a spoon. Clatter, silence, smiles that didn't reach their eyes, and me standing there holding 3 mugs, wondering when my own house started feeling like someone else's. The radiator hissed. Wind rattled the windows like fingers tapping for answers. I was heading to bed when I heard her voice. Soft, too soft. The kitchen light glowed under the door. Tahlia spoke in a whisper. Sweet, stretched vowels. "Last night was different." Pause. I can still feel it. I froze, toes numb on the hallway tile. Another silence, then a laugh, breathless. She giggled again like she was 16, not 34, not crashing on her sister's couch. I stepped back, creaked the floorboard on purpose. The light flipped off. Footsteps, cabinet door. She opened the fridge just as I walked in. "Couldn't sleep?" I asked. My voice felt too loud. She jumped a little, then smiled. Was just grabbing water. Her cheeks were flushed. No glass in her hand. I leaned against the counter. "You were on the phone." She blinked, shrugged. "Just an old friend." "What kind of friend?" She laughed again, too bright, too fast. "You always read too much into things." She walked past me. Hair brushed my arm. Cold. Like the air she left behind. I stared at the dark window. My reflection looked blurry, small. Like I didn't recognize her anymore, or myself. Upstairs, the bedroom light turned off. Dane was still awake, but he hadn't come down, hadn't asked about the voices, or the silence that followed. I pressed my palm to the counter, felt the cold cut through skin. The wind howled louder, somewhere outside a branch snapped. And in my chest, something else cracked. The envelope looked innocent, folded twice, no name on the front. She slid it across the table. "I want to pay you back." I blinked. The morning sun hit her hair just right, golden like a halo. "For the rent," she said. "You shouldn't have covered that." I opened it, a receipt from her old landlord, printed, stamped, paid in full. But something was off. The amount was correct, 150. But the name at the bottom wasn't hers. Dane Vale, signed in his unmistakable, sharp, slanted cursive. My chest tightened. I read it again. Dane's name, Dane's signature. Dane, not me, not her. "Did you ask him to pay it?" She hesitated. Smile flickered. "I mean, yeah, he offered. Said he didn't want you stressed." She sipped her coffee, eyes on the window, avoiding mine. I looked at the receipt again. The date was 2 days before I wired the money. I clenched my fingers. The edge of the paper cut my thumb. "Why didn't he tell me?" She shrugged. Maybe he forgot, then so much going on lately. Her tone was light, too light. Outside, a plow scraped the street, metal against asphalt. Dane came down the stairs, tie half knotted, mug in hand. I held up the receipt. He glanced, then nodded like it meant nothing. That was before he said, "I thought we already paid it." He turned to grab his coat. "That's it?" I asked, voice sharp. He paused, didn't look at me. "We were trying to help." "We?" He shut the door behind him. The sound echoed, too final. Tahlia cleared her throat. "Don't make this weird new. He was just being kind." I stared at her. Kindness doesn't come with a signature, especially not behind my back, especially not from both of them. I couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet, too still. The silence didn't comfort me, it gnawed. So I got up, padded into the hallway, opened my laptop. The building's hallway cams saved 7 days of footage. Mostly boring, mailmen, neighbors. But Tuesday night stood out. I clicked through until I reached 10:43 p.m. There he was, Dane, entering Tahlia's door. No hesitation, no box, no reason, just him, walking in. My hand froze on the mouse. I didn't blink, didn't breathe. I dragged the cursor forward. Half an hour, still inside. The hallway stayed empty, just the quiet hum of betrayal. At 2:18 a.m. he stepped out. Hair messy, shirt untucked. He looked down the hallway, then walked back toward our unit. My chest turned to ice, not numb, not cold. Shattered. I rewound it again, and again. Paused on his face, paused on her door closing behind him. She didn't even walk him out. That kind of intimacy, the kind that doesn't need words. I leaned back, felt the edge of the chair cut into my spine. He told me he was working late that night, said the new hire had no clue what he was doing. I stared at the screen, at the digital timestamp proof in pixels. I opened a folder, named it quietly, Midnight. Dragged the footage in, backed it up twice, once to the cloud, once to a red USB. My hand trembled, but not from fear. From the clarity. There would be no explaining this, no forgetting, no forgiveness whispered under dim lights. This wasn't suspicion anymore, it was fact. And facts don't go away when the snow melts. The water ran loud behind the bathroom door. Steam curled beneath the gap. Dane's phone lit up on the nightstand, once, then again. I wasn't snooping, not really. The screen just blinked in the dark. 2 words. "You awake?" From TB. Tahlia Brooke. My breath caught. I stared like it might disappear. Another ping. "You make me feel safe." I picked up the phone. My fingers didn't shake. Not this time. Swipe up, no password. The thread opened like a wound. Photos, selfies. Late night. Thinking of you. Midday I missed last night a week ago. I wish I could sleep beside you without sneaking. Each line sank deeper, soft, sticky, like honey turned sour. One message burned through the others. She doesn't touch you anymore. She doesn't see you. They talked like I didn't exist, like I was just furniture, part of the background, quiet blind. My fingers hovered over the call log. 7 calls last week. 3 from his office breaks. 1 at midnight. I could hear the shower shut off. Water dripped. Floor creaked. I backed out, locked the screen, set the phone down face up. When he walked out, hair-damp towel around his shoulders, he smiled at me. Casual, like nothing was ending. I smiled back. "Sleep okay last night?" he asked, voice low. "Yeah," I said, "dreamless." And that was true, because dreams are lies. This was wide awake. My stomach turned, but I held steady. Let him lean in, let him kiss my cheek. I didn't pull away, not yet. Because the final move, it wasn't his, it was mine. The house was silent. Only the clock ticked steady as breath. I sat on the floor beside the fireplace. The USB lay in my palm, red cold light, blinking like a heartbeat. I could hear Dane snoring upstairs. Tahlia's room door closed tight. The whole house slept, but I couldn't. I thought back to when we were little. Tahlia broke Mom's perfume bottle. I took the blame. Said I bumped the shelf. She cried louder than I did. Always did. And Mom forgave her. Always did. Even now, even grown, the pattern never broke. She made the mess. I cleaned it. Until now. I reached for my journal. Wrote 1 line. I believe in kindness, but not at the cost of myself. The wind whistled against the window, like it knew. I stood, walked to the desk, opened a folder marked Final. Inside, screenshots, videos, transcripts, timestamps. I zipped the folder, renamed it. Truth Doesn't Whisper. Then I backed it up again, and again. I wasn't planning revenge. I was planning clarity. For me. For everyone who thought I'd stay quiet. I held the drive to my chest, felt its shape press against bone. I wasn't trembling. I wasn't broken. I was awake, more awake than I'd ever been, and I knew what had to happen next. Not tomorrow, not someday. This Christmas, they would unwrap the truth. Together. I started with the lease, dug through the kitchen drawer where we kept all the boring stuff, warranty papers, expired coupons, and contracts. Found it, folded twice, Dane's signature next to Tahlia's. No mention of me, no consent. I scanned it, saved a copy under shared lies. Next came the messages. I synced Dane's backup folder to my laptop. He never changed his settings. He never thought I'd look. Text threads downloaded in seconds. Photos, dates, those awful half-promises. After the holidays, we'll talk. As if I were some obstacle to be scheduled. Then the audio. I remembered the day I'd recorded them by accident. Dane was on speaker, Tahlia's voice in the background. You're so good to her, she'd said, even when she's cold. And him, she's not cold. She just trusts people too much. Click, saved, labeled, gaslight.mp3. I sat back in the chair, watching the folder grow. Bit by bit, they built their story. Line by line, I built mine. By midnight, I had everything: lease, messages, call logs, camera footage, giggling lies, recorded in 128 kbps. I opened my editor. No drama, just cuts, text overlays, screenshots sliding over a black screen. No music, no color. Truth doesn't need dressing. I inserted his voice at the end. She's not dumb, okay? She just trusts people too much. That was the last line. Perfect. Exported the file. Named it a giftbox meb. It was 4 minutes 12 seconds long. Long enough to burn, short enough to finish before anyone could shut it off. I tested it twice. On the TV, on the projector. Everything worked. Then came the delivery. I took a small ivory box from the closet, patted the USB inside with tissue paper, wrapped it in silver and red. No name, no tag, no warning. I placed it at the bottom of the gift pile, right beneath a stuffed reindeer from Aunt Carol. I stood back, looked at the tree, the fireplace, the whole living room glowing with golden peace. They would never see it coming. Then I sent one last message to Tahlia. I added a surprise to your pile. Hope you open it last. She replied with a heart. Of course she did. They always think I'm the soft one, the weak one, the one who keeps forgiving. But this year I wasn't handing out grace. I was handing out truth. And they would open it whether they wanted to or not. The day of the party arrived cold and bright. Missoula sparkled under fresh snow, clean like the lie they'd built. I lit cinnamon candles, set out cider, hung garlands over the mantel. Everyone showed up early, neighbors, family, even Aunt Carol with her secret vodka in a Coke bottle. Dane helped carry out folding chairs. He smiled more than usual. Too much, like he was trying, like guilt needed decorating. Tahlia floated in around 3 p.m. wearing a velvet green dress. Her hair curled, her cheeks rosy. Smells amazing in here, she said. God, I needed this. She hugged me tight, held a tray of cookies shaped like snowflakes, one cracked in half. We laughed. I played the part. Perfect hostess, perfect fool. The room filled with chatter music, cheese plates, and old stories. Nobody suspected. Nobody asked. Because no one expects the quiet ones to erupt. I slipped away to the kitchen, checked the projector one last time. HDMI plugged in, volume halfway. Playback cue ready. The silver box waited, tucked just beneath Tahlia's mountain of glittery bags. At 5, I rang a spoon against a mug. Let's do gifts before everyone gets too tipsy. Laughter. Cheers. Chairs shifted. Phones came out. Tahlia sat in the center, legs crossed, belly tucked in under satin. She opened scarves. Bath bombs? A handmade wreath from our cousin June. Then she reached for the silver box. Brows furrowed. No name on this one. I shrugged. Maybe Santa's watching. Giggles. She untied the ribbon, lifted the lid, pulled out the USB, confused, held it up. What's this? Dane's smile froze. Just for a second. A flicker. Plug it in, someone yelled. Maybe it's a digital scrapbook. She looked around, then at me. I smiled. Should I? I nodded. Definitely. She stood, walked to the projector, slid it into the port. The wall lit up, white screen, black text. Some things deserve to be seen. The room fell quiet. The audio clicked. Dane's voice. Clear, soft. She's not dumb, okay? She just trusts people too much. Gasps. Whispers. Next messages. Her contact name. TB. Photos. Lines. Wish I could wake up beside you. I hate sneaking out. Then the camera footage. Tuesday night, 2:18 a.m., Dane leaving her door. Tahlia backed away, mouth parted, hands trembling. No, she turned, faced me. What is this? My voice was steady, the truth. She looked at Dane, but he said nothing. Didn't move, didn't deny. Someone in the back muttered, "Oh my God." Aunt Carol took a sip of vodka. June whispered something into her scarf. Talia's lips moved, but no words came. Just noise, choked and ugly. I walked to the front, took the remote, paused the screen, turned to the room. There's cider and dessert in the kitchen. You're welcome to stay. I didn't raise my voice, didn't cry. I just smiled, stepped aside, and let them all feel it. The weight of everything I'd carried now theirs. I didn't look at Dane, didn't need to. The silence around him said more than any defense ever could. I walked outside. Cold air slapped my cheeks, hard, real. The party kept going without me, but the story had changed, and I no longer lived in theirs. Inside, no one moved. The screen still glowed, paused mid-sentence, Talia's name hanging in the top corner. She stood near the fireplace, arms wrapped tight around her waist. Red blotches bloomed on her neck. "This is twisted," she choked. "You did this on purpose. You wanted to humiliate me." I didn't flinch. "You did that yourself." She pointed at the guests. "They shouldn't have seen that. That was private." I stepped forward. "No, private is between lovers. This was between liars." Dane sat down slowly, like his legs couldn't hold him anymore. Elbows on knees, face blank, not even ashamed. Someone whispered, "Did you know?" Another, "She planned this whole party." Tahlia's voice cracked. She was cold. She stopped caring. "You said," I raised my hand. "Don't quote him. He's not speaking now." She looked at him begging, but Dane stared at the floor, like the tiles might explain something he couldn't. "I didn't mean to fall for him," Tahlia said. Her voice wavered, then sharpened. "You two always looked so perfect. I thought I could have a piece of that." I laughed, short, empty. "You didn't take a piece. You tried to replace it." Murmurs, coughs, someone shifted in their chair. But no one came to her side, not even her sister-in-law, not even our mother. She turned, tears streaking her mascara. "I thought we were close." "We were," I said. "You just chose closeness with the wrong person." Dane finally looked up. "I'm sorry." But it wasn't to me, or her, just spoken aloud, like a leaf drifting down after the storm. "Sorry doesn't rebuild anything," I said. "It doesn't fix the days I looked stupid in my own home." I turned to the crowd. "I didn't plan this to destroy Christmas. I planned this because I stopped recognizing the people in my life. And I needed them to see themselves the way I've been seeing them." I turned off the projector, unplugged the cord. Silence swallowed the room. Aunt Carol set her cup down. "Maybe we should go." One by one, they gathered coats, closed purses, and slipped into boots. Not a single goodbye to Tahlia, not a word to Dane. Even our cousin June didn't hug anyone, just squeezed my shoulder and whispered, "You did what no one else could." Then the door clicked shut, leaving just us three. Tahlia looked lost. Her hands kept smoothing her dress like she could erase the wrinkles. "I have nowhere to go," she whispered. I nodded. "You can stay tonight, but you're leaving tomorrow." She gasped. "Where?" "I don't know. I don't care." Dane stood. "Can we talk?" "About what I asked. About how you let her move into this house just to sleep 10 feet away from me." His jaw clenched. He reached for me. I stepped back. "No more lies. No more gentle tones. No more waiting for me to explode just so you can feel better about being the quiet one." He looked stunned. Maybe because I didn't scream. Maybe because I sounded more alive than I had in years. "I don't hate you," I added. "I just don't trust you. And I don't want to share a roof with someone who made me doubt my own instincts." Tahlia sat on the couch, head in hands, shoulders shaking. Dane opened his mouth, closed it again. Then he nodded, slow, heavy. "You want me to leave tonight?" I walked to the hallway, pulled out the overnight bag he used for work trips, set it by the door. "Tonight, no more discussion, no more pretending." He packed, silent, embarrassed, and not once did he ask me to change my mind. By midnight, the house was still. No footsteps, no laughter. Just me and the truth. I tossed the USB into the fireplace. It didn't catch at first, then flickered, then curled into smoke. My wedding ring joined it, a faint clink before the flames swallowed the metal. I swept up the confetti, the cookie crumbs, the pieces of a party that looked beautiful and ended in ash. Outside, the wind picked up again, blew snow across the porch, erasing every footprint. Inside, I made tea, sat in the quiet, watched the flames. I wasn't shattered, I wasn't angry. I was free. It's been 31 days. No calls, no visits. Tahlia texted once, something long, I never opened it. Dane sent a letter. I didn't read that either. I knew what it said. I didn't need to see it. The house is quieter now, but not empty. I moved her old plant to the kitchen. It's growing again. Funny how things come back when you stop smothering them. I repainted the hallway, hung a new calendar, made a rule no second chances for people who treat you like an option. Some mornings I still wake early, muscle memory. I lace my boots, walk the stretch behind the lake. Snow crunches underfoot. The same path I used to walk with her. Now it's mine again. There's a dog I pass sometimes, little noisy, barks at everyone. Except me. I like that. Maybe dogs know. The porch no longer creaks. The bedroom air smells like lavender, not lies. I still believe in kindness, but not the kind that asks you to shrink for someone else to grow. I still believe in loyalty, but not the kind that lets betrayal borrow your name. Forgiveness. It doesn't mean doors stay open. Sometimes it means locking them and walking away with the key. Where in the world are you listening from? Have you ever walked away from someone who swore they'd never hurt you? Subscribe if you know this truth. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It means strength finally stopped explaining itself.